Alright people, how we doing tonight? Welcome to another Sunday live stream. I'm your host Lefty, here on my left eye. It's great to see you all this evening. Let's get cracking. Let's get straight into the lounge with Keith for some fondue. Lots to talk about. Okay, looks like we've got a good connection on the stream. Great to see Glenn, Hedy and Brett in the chat already. And thanks for throwing up those Palestine solidarity flags as well. Great to see you all back tonight. Welcome to World War III. That's the flavour of fondue that Keith's cooking up. No doubt with Blur and Mandy having some influence over that as well. That's an ongoing, increasingly escalating situation. It's not great, is it? Very strange. I'm in a very strange mood this week with World War III and all this other stuff. I've never been in a world war. I don't know about you, fellow people, good people, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. But I haven't. And this is certainly a regional war at the moment. Yeah, you also saw that picture at the start of the stream there. I hope going to be talking about those recent convictions. Phoebe Plummer and Anna Holland, Just Stop Oil protesters, sentenced to 2 years and 20 months respectively. The latest in a series of unfair sentences for climate protesters. We'll be catching up with Keith himself, of course, and the latest in UK politics, so let us know what you think about all of the topics. Jump into the chat if you're not subscribed. Please do so. You can join the chat just a minute later. And speaking of chat, great to see Davinia joining us this evening. Welcome back. Also, please do hit that thumbs up button. Keep the stream reaching even more people. Had a good Socialist Sunday on Twitter today as well. Had quite a lot of followers. We always follow back on Twitter as well. If you want to check us out at My Left Eye UK, please do. Also on Mastodon at My Left Eye. That's just My Left Eye, but with capitals at the start of each word on Mastodon. And Mithrill, welcome back. Great to see you again. Hope you've been well. Are you ready for a hot bowl of World War III flavoured fondue? Yes, so there's a couple of other bits of UK politics to discuss as well. I've had a couple of videos out this week. So please do check them out if you've not done so already. A few other stories have happened since I was last with you on a live stream. Weekday live streams are the Brews at 10, by the way. Please do check out the playlist if you want to catch up with those. Just one sec, people. I'm being told there's a bit of buffering going on. Apologies. Right, bear with. Just trying to deal with this buffering issue at the moment. If you can hear me, Okay, it looks like got a smooth connection now. Sorry about the buffering there for a few moments. Anybody experiencing that? Okay, fantastic. Looks like it's all coming through loud and clear. Yeah, so there've been a few more... Oh God. A few more mainstream media appearances from Keith and his ghouls. I'll be having a bit of a look at that as well. Got a comedy clip lined up. I've got a couple of comedy clips to go through tonight's stream. We'll get cracking in just a moment. I just want to bring the... so I rudely interrupt Keith's party. Sorry, not sorry, Keith. Just to give a shout out to the illustrator of this wonderful picture that I'll put up at the start of the stream there. So that's Harry Burton, if you want to check him out on Twitter. That's where I got this from, so shout out to Harry. But while climate protesters are jailed, international war criminals like Netanyahu remain at large. This is now a full regional war as far as I'm concerned, and you look at the scale of his crimes compared to that of Phoebe and Anna on the left, then it's just ridiculous. Makes you question if there's any real justice in the world. So well done, Harry Burton, for that fantastic bit of artwork there. Alright, I think I'll get some background music going. Yeah, I'm going to try and get some different background music for the Sunday live streams, but for now I'll just stick with the ones that I use on the Brews at 10, which you'll probably be familiar with, so just for now. And welcome to the chat, Chris. Great to see you back again. I do actually have a cup of tea with me, so that fully legitimises the use of the Brews at 10 background theme music for now. Sorry about that, just knocked the microphone. Yeah, well, I'm going to be putting together some different background music for Sunday live streams. Just while I'm on the subject of the channel as well, quick update. Really pleased with recent response on one of the videos, the Jess Phillips news appearance one, and we've picked up some new subscribers as well. So if you're a new subscriber listening to a live stream for the first time, a very warm welcome to you. Solidarity this Socialist Sunday. And yeah, just under 3,000 at the moment, as I said in other streams. Once I get past the 3,000 landmark, there's going to be a special live stream about that as well, so hopefully we'll be breaching that wall soon. I've got a few ideas for what to do for that landmark. Just turn the background music down a bit. We'll get cracking anyway with the opening comedy clip of the evening. FSM is the dog. Great to see you back. Welcome, all welcome tonight. Okay. This is the latest, one of the latest, I think, from Ty Hickey. Had his stuff on live streams before, so check his stuff out. It's Ty Hickey, so that's... Goodness, I'm going to have to double check the spelling, make sure I don't get it wrong. Yeah, I think I've spelt it right. It's T-A-I-D-G-H and Hickey, with an E in Hickey. Check his content out. And after this, I'll check out the latest on these attacks between Israel, Lebanon, Yemen. Obviously, at the same time, they're continuing to bombard Gaza. Things are getting out of hand. So this is his sketch about that escalating situation. And then we'll go into the latest of this Middle East war.
Well, well, well. You're about to give that to him, are you?
I haven't decided. Why?
Have you any morals left? Arming the intruder, the guy who brutally tried to take over a house that isn't his?
Aren't you arming and bankrolling that guy?
That's completely different.
How?
Look, mate, if he's done anything wrong, suffice to say that we would be unequivocally and absolutely concerned. And we would urge him to investigate himself whenever he gets a chance.
By the way, I thought you were all
Revolutionary. Siding with the oppressor? I'm backing the little guy.
Yeah, but he's being beaten to death.
Shh, will ya? I've got a nice little racket going with the guys who make all that shit.
You don't give a shit about the little guy. You were just trying to take down the big guy and keep your little racket going.
Yeah, well, you're evil.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, sums it up. Great performance from Ty Hickey. Now then, this absolute shit show in the Middle East is escalating so quickly it's hard to know where to begin. Oh, that's the background music. There we go. Yeah, I guess we'll start with, obviously, Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, excuse me, was killed in an attack by Israel on on Lebanon. That was confirmed yesterday, and this is really the massive spark to kick off the tinderbox that we've all been sort of expecting, really. This, as well as ongoing attacks on Beirut, has been detrimental to Hezbollah, but there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be a massive retaliation from this. And that's probably also going to include Iran, who've held 5 days of mourning. At the moment, there are also strikes happening in Yemen, as you can see on the screen there. Hezbollah and the Houthis in Yemen have been returning fire. A lot of those have been taken out by Israel's Iron Dome air defence system, though. Let's just take a look at some of the latest. Okay, now I think this clip here is from an attack on a port in Yemen, who've also said they won't be deterred and will continue their attacks against Israel. So, summarily speaking, before we just get into the latest news, at the moment, on one side you have Israel, who are backed up by the United States of America. They're complicit in all this, of course. They're on one side, simultaneously, obviously attacking Gaza and the West Bank in Palestine, but also Lebanon, Yemen, no doubt Iran and Iraq will be brought into this as well. Let's have a quick look at this port attack. Wow. And information's coming in quite regularly, these exchanges of fire, so Yemen and Lebanon are striking back. A new leader of Hezbollah has been appointed already. There's been a funeral for Nasrallah, who was leader of Hezbollah for some 30 years and has a very loyal following in Lebanon and in Iran, of course. Biden's thrown in his 2 cents for what they're worth. All-out war must be avoided, says Biden, who is funding and sending arms to warmongers and international war criminals. So, great sentiments there, Joe. Not a hint, not a whiff of hypocrisy whatsoever. Olwyn, welcome to the chat. Great to see you back again. Well, unfortunately, Joe, I think, just going back to this article, I think we're already there. Netanyahu appeared at the UN, of course, this week. There was a massive walkout protest stage. Many delegates of many countries left the hall as he was speaking, and only a small number remained. But on that day, he stood at the lectern and made his speech, essentially in a very deluded state, of course, declaring war, and essentially saying he doesn't think he can be opposed at all. Ridiculous. He's a maniac. The guy's a maniac. What can you say? He's a psychopath. And at the same time, Israel, at the very same time, he was trying to even have the gall to say that he gives a damn about ceasefire talks and peace in the region. At that very moment, the strikes that killed Hezbollah leaders and now totaled over 1,000 deaths in total in Lebanon, and 1 million people have been displaced. That's what he was plotting. Obviously, with war comes shortages of food and supplies, as this part of the Rolling News points out. Bread, flour, canned goods, baby formula, these kind of things. So yeah, what happened, just going back to Netanyahu, what happened to the attacks on Palestine only being about trying to get the hostages back and trying to eliminate Hamas? There's no Hamas in Lebanon, there's no Hamas in Yemen. There aren't any hostages in Lebanon, there aren't any hostages in Yemen. What's actually going on is, in his lunatic mind, also with an increasing sense of desperation, he thinks that this is his only opportunity, sort of the opportunity of a lifetime to, and this is his ultimate goal. This is how deluded he is. He wants to take out Palestine, Yemen, Lebanon and Iran at the same time and occupy them and drive the whole population out of those countries to make way for Israeli settlers, so-called settlers, occupiers. That's what they actually are. That's his dream. It's not just his dream for Palestine, that's his dream for the whole region. For the whole region. This is evident. This is even further evidence of that. So now, that excuse regarding the elimination of Hamas and the return of the hostages is completely out of the window. Not that it wasn't before, but now that this is happening, how can he dare say that that was his only military objective, should we say? Another update on one of the airstrikes. Number of people killed has risen to 32, 53 people now reported to have been wounded. The IDF says it's targeted 120 Hezbollah sites. That's of course ridiculous. There's no distinction for them between Hezbollah and civilian population. As I've mentioned before, these maniacs just don't care. They're perfectly happy to target women and children, civilians, schools, hospitals, universities. It'll be the same for Lebanon and Yemen as it is in terms of excuse that they've been using for Palestine. Oh, we bombed a school, it was full of Hezbollah. They just replaced the word Hamas with Hezbollah and think that they can get away with it, but it's absolute horse crap. Don't buy it for 1 second. They're liars. 4 dead, 33 injured in Hudaydah. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Apologies if I've not. And these reports are coming in really regularly. They're a couple of hours ahead of us, of course, but this is obviously now a 24-hour situation. So even Netanyahu's one of the excuses for these latest attacks being that 60,000 people have been displaced on the Israeli side of the Israeli-Lebanon border in recent exchanges of fire. However, 80% of those attacks have come from Israel, attacks by Israel on Lebanon. And it just shows the hubris of the Zionist mindset that they genuinely expect, purely out of the fact that they're backed up by countries like the United States, and also the UK are complicit in this, as we know. They believe that by that virtue that they're somehow immune to retaliatory attacks when they attack a nation that borders with them. That they believe that their attacks are completely justified morally, but any retaliatory attack is evil. But 60,000 people being displaced on the Israeli side again counts for only a fraction of those now displaced in Lebanon. 1 million people. 1 million people. So there you can see Israel takes on nearly all of its enemies at once. Just read a few bits from this part of the article. Yeah, the axis of resistance is what Israel has coined the group of countries who are now at war with Iran, and I've no hesitation in saying that. I don't think I'm sticking my neck out particularly in saying that this is war. War has been declared, in a sense. Obviously, Hassan Nasrallah being assassinated, I think, is more or less as close as you can get to an official declaration of war. Can you imagine if it was a European leader, or a leader of the US, Canada, any member of the G8 or whatever, who'd been assassinated by another nation? You know what they'd say about that. They would say it was a declaration of war. So yeah, just a bit from this article. The so-called enemy is this axis of resistance, meaning a resistance to the ongoing Israeli occupation of the West Bank, Golan Heights and Gaza, just as Israel has come under attack from drones and missiles fired by Iran's allied militias in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq and Yemen. So has Israel struck out at targets in all of those countries. Edmund Fitton Brown, a former British ambassador to Yemen and now a senior advisor with the Counter-Extremism Project, tells the BBC the Houthis have continued to try to attack Israel and have known intent to try to upgrade their capabilities to make their attacks more effective. This year, Israel struck targets in Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Gaza, the West Bank, and is widely believed to be behind the assassination of the Hamas political leader Ismail. Just checking that the connection's alright. Widely believed to be behind the assassination of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, and that was in July. Those are the areas of Yemen that have been struck by Israel. Ras Isa and Hudaida. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly again, of course, apologies if not. These are people who had to gather their belongings and just left with the clothes on the back, literally. They said they only had short notice, received a message that came from the Israeli army to their phones asking them to leave the house. They're residents of Beirut, who are some of the million people who've been displaced in a very short amount of time as well. That we can make, if you make comparisons to other world conflicts, the timescales that we're talking about and the numbers of displaced people, refugees, are just off the scale. The Houthis call Israeli strikes on Yemen American-British aggression. Israeli airstrikes on two parts of Yemen, which Israel says were targeting Houthi sites. Houthi spokesman Mohammed al-Bukhati has described the attacks as American-British aggression, saying Israel is an extension of it used as a cover to evade moral responsibility. So this is what happens when you financially back a state such as Israel and arm them. Look at what we've now had a hand in. And obviously I've pointed out before that there were going to be, the UK was going to be a target for any retaliatory action. And that's why we should all be pretty worried about just how far this could go. This could go beyond a regional war and lead into something a whole lot bigger. Which it kind of already is. You consider that we're involved, the United States are involved. it's only a matter of time before other superpowers come into play, and you know what happens. You know what happens when it goes that far. And is that what's happening? Are the dominoes falling day by day until we get to that point? I think the key to this is the removal of Netanyahu. He's got to be imprisoned for his war crimes. Like, that might help, you know. Yoav Gallant, Israeli Defense Minister, says no place is too far, so there's nowhere far away enough that they wouldn't consider attacking. So this is worrying. This is very worrying. It's all ongoing, but that's the overall situation at the moment. I can't dwell on this for too long. I've got a few other topics to go on to. But the pieces are in place, you know, the lines in the sand, and allies have joined with other allies at this point on both sides, and now it's at the moment looks like only a matter of time before it descends into something a lot wider, and we should definitely be very concerned. Alright, we'll move on to a couple of other topics. Might just quickly come back to that at the end if there are any more breaking news stories around that. Don't forget to share the stream around and hit the thumbs up button, people. Happy Socialist Sunday. Thanks for staying with me on tonight's Sunday live stream. On my left eye, I'm your host Lefty, for anyone who's joined us since we started. Wishing you a very warm welcome and a very good evening tonight. And you can also join this list of incredible people who help to support the channel for just 99 pence. Lots of perks for you to enjoy if you want to check those out as well. I'd like to give a customary extension of thanks to people who've gifted memberships to other viewers lately as well. That's a great way of showing solidarity. Thanks to each and every one of you. Yes, thank you very much, brothers and sisters, for all of the support. Super chats are also open if you've got a pertinent question or point you want to raise, and if you're watching back on a replay after the stream has ended, super thanks are open as well. And thanks for all your contributions. I'm going to move on to a few domestic political affairs for a little bit. Just bear with me 1 second, folks. I'll be right back, just need a short break. Stick around. If anyone jumps in the chat, just let them know. I'll be right back. Thanks a lot, people. Alright people, back. Sorry about that short break. Okay, moving on now. We've got this story. I'm sure a lot of you will have heard about this already. Just Stop Oil carried out another cultural action on a Van Gogh display that came on the same day that Phoebe Plummer and Anna Holland were sentenced to 2 years and 20 months respectively. Long-term viewers of the channel all know that I'm a supporter of Just Stop Oil and have taken action with JSO. And yeah, these latest convictions, the injustice in the sentencing is something I'm going to go into as well. You know, it's always awful to see this happen to people who you know, people who you've been on actions with as well. So I've got a ITV, I think it's an ITV news clip that I'll play first, and then we'll just go over some details of that as well.
Next tonight, it was an astonishing act of vandalism that made global headlines. Two 22-year-old women throwing soup over one of the most famous paintings in the world at the National Gallery before gluing themselves to its frame. Well, today they were jailed for more than 3.5 years between them as hundreds of their supporters protested silently outside. Then, just a few hours later, Just Stop Oil served up a second course. Rags Martel explains.
It's happened again. This time, it's 2 Van Gogh paintings.
People in prison.
Just Stop Oil activists protesting about their jailed colleagues who also splashed the sunflowers with soup.
Future generations will regard these prisoners of conscience.
And this was the first time it happened at the National Gallery. Back in October 2022, Phoebe Plummer on the left and Anna Holland threw Heinz tomato soup at the work of art before gluing their hands to the wall. Earlier this morning at Southwark Crown Court, the pair were sentenced to prison for causing £10,000 worth of damage, not to the painting, which remained unharmed, but to its antique frame.
What is worth more, art or life?
I just want to interrupt there. I'll let the rest play out. There's no way that reparation of that frame costs £10,000. Absolutely not. That's bollocks.
Plummer, who turned 23 yesterday, was described in court as a committed Just Stop Oil activist.
I'm being put in handcuffs right now.
And this wasn't her first offence. Not only sentenced today for criminal damage of the painting, but slow walking during a protest last year, convicted of interfering with national infrastructure. Without a lawyer, Phoebe Plummer represented herself in court. She gave a 20-minute speech saying she knew her actions would lead to a conviction, but she had to do it because of what she called an accelerating climate emergency. The judge did interrupt her when she compared herself to a political prisoner, saying, "This isn't helping you, Miss Plummer." She was given 2 years in prison. Holland, standing next to her, got 20 months. Outside court, a silent protest for the right for peaceful protest.
When Phoebe and Anna said, what's more important, art or life, they're not saying art's not important. What they're saying is that life is more important. And that's what we have to recognise. We are in the midst of a catastrophic collapse of everything.
Not that long ago.
And he's right, that was Graham Busey there. He's done some spokes for JSO before, if you want to check that out as well. But this is something that wasn't that widely reported in other mainstream media outlets. The fact that 300 people showed up to show solidarity and support for Phoebe and Anna there at Southwark Crown Court. I wasn't able to be among them, unfortunately. I am self-employed, I should explain. So I wasn't able to get down to London on Friday. But this wasn't brought, to the public's attention nearly as much as it should have been done, just how many people support Phoebe and Anna, as well as the climate movement in a broader sense as well.
It's an unwritten rule that we didn't jail people who did peaceful protest in this country, and now we are jailing them at an alarming rate at a time when the prison system is under immense strain and everybody's talking about that.
The National Gallery say the 2 sunflower paintings targeted today were unharmed. 3 people were arrested, but the exhibition is expected to reopen soon. Rex Martel, ITV News.
Okay, I'm just going to take a look at the chat, see what you make of that. FSM is the dog, you're quite right. No Soup did touch the painting. That was on both occasions, both on Friday and way back on October the 14th, it was, 2022, when Phoebe and Anna took that action. So it's protected, it's covered by glass for those of you who weren't familiar. And as you heard in that report, they've been charged with damage of the frame, but I'm sure it didn't cost £10,000 to clean the frame either. And yeah, clearly the way the justice system looks at it, Alwyn, they value art more with these ridiculously long sentences that follow 4 and 5 years for members of the Whole Truth 5. A total of around 30 people from JSO are now in prison. Some of them with sentences as high as 4 and 5 years, a lot of them sentenced to 2-3 years as well, and it's completely unjust. And I was part of this action phase when Phoebe and Anna first took action. I was there quite a lot of the 6 weeks of the full action phase, either taking action or covering it with JSO Media as well. And I have to say that I know that well, for one, they were aware of the consequences of what they did. They were prepared to potentially go to prison for the action. And the resolve is amazing. I believe Phoebe gave a long speech in court during which she said that she will go to prison with a smile. And I know that both of them are very intelligent, very dedicated young women who would compare their prison sentences to what the world is facing, with increasing climate change, with an increasingly dangerous situation where we risk going over so many tipping points. I won't go on about that. I could lecture you for hours on that. But the comparison of going to prison is nothing for what people are going to be facing with climate breakdown, essentially. So yeah, just want to show massive solidarity with Phoebe and Anna, as well as the three who took that retaliatory action on Friday as well. Of course, it was anticipated that Judge Hehir might give some pretty unfair, unjust sentences to Phoebe and Anna. That was the case, and that's why that counteraction took place. And yeah, the same judges who have sentenced people like Phoebe and Anna and the Whole Truth 5 have also let off paedophiles, for example. So it goes to show, well, the point that clearly art is more valued by the likes of some judges, and as a fellow supporter of JSO, I have to say I've had quite a mixed bag in terms of judicial process. I've had acquittals, I've had convictions, I've had cases dropped as well. So for me personally, that's been quite a mixed bag. But where these cultural actions are concerned, especially with Phoebe and Anna, and the Whole Truth 5, it seems certainly that the establishment want to make examples out of certain individuals. That goes without saying. And you make a good point there, Odin, in the chat. We do, I say we, the government, we should say, the powers that be, keep focusing on the symptoms rather than the problems. And look at what we've seen this week. We've seen massive floods in America, huge storms. These are going to get increasingly intense and increasingly frequent. That's just one of many examples, as well as the Thwaites Glacier, also known as the Doomsday Glacier, could potentially be doomed, and that huge amount of ice would account for a large proportion of sea level rise, for example, and also increasing global temperatures, which I won't go into, but these are the kind of things that people who take climate action are trying to fight against, as well as a media bias, clearly a government bias, a lot of corruption going on there. I wouldn't expect Starmer, where the UK is concerned, to have many solutions for this. We know that they binned the £28 billion Green Pledge at the start of the year, back in January, I believe that was. And Bird's Nest Rat Fest, that's also a great point. The amount of fuel that the American military use daily says something. And that takes us back to what we were looking at earlier, and what we can see on the right of our screens here. This man at large, creating a regional war. The United States of America are involved in this. They've already sent troops into the region. And I'm sure that the UK, as soon as Netanyahu clicks his fingers, would be inclined to as well. In increasing numbers. And the amount of oil that uses, the amount of pollution that creates, as well as the death and the destruction and the aftermaths of war, it really does send it spiking. It doesn't help at all. So it would be two-faced for any global leader to say that they were concerned about the climate crisis while simultaneously aiding and abetting a regional war. Monger. I.e. Benjamin Netanyahu. Sorry for the pause there. Wasn't sure if there was a problem with the connection. Okay, so that's all I'll say on that matter for now. Obviously try and keep you up to speed. I believe the 3 JSO members who took the retaliatory action on Friday have not been released at the moment. Not sure if they're going to be remanded. So I'll try and keep you up to speed with that as soon as my left eye gets word. So yeah, let's move on. Solidarity, Phoebe and Anna. Okay, moving on. Should just say as well, remind you, just on that last topic, I have been arrested and or charged for all of my actions with JSO so far. A couple of other domestic political affairs to go into first before we check back on that escalating situation in the Middle East. Where to go through first? Alright, so obviously there's been the Ferrari over all of this bribery and corruption. I'm not going to use the term gifts, I'll just say it like it is, because that's what it is, bribery and corruption surrounding Keir Starmer and other members of the what's left of the so-called Labour Party. And he was trying to defend that as well as a few other concerning policies on Beth Rigby, so I've got a little clip of that. Then Lewis Goodall on LBC had Pat McFadden on. That's the coma on 2 legs, Pat McFadden. I'll dive into this one with Starmer first and then move on to Pat.
You have said that we are all in this together. You said in your speech yesterday, it's a shared struggle, a project that says to everyone this will be tough. To coin a phrase, we're all in it together. And for some of it, whether you like it or not, it will look to some people that we're not all in it together, that because of your position, you get privilege and freebies that other people don't have access to. Take GCSEs. There will be some people that would also want a private place, have a different environment where they would like their child to go so they could have a better opportunity. Do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to?
Just to jump in there, so this is about obviously a wealthy donor who allowed Starmer's son to use this very expensive property to study for their GCSEs. That's what Rigby's alluding to if you're not familiar with that story. What have you got, Keith? What have you got to say?
Well, I think that's why the rules are there to declare it. But look, every day...
Do you get it, though?
Every day...
Do you get how it looks?
If you're putting to me, Beth, that I should have stayed in my Kentish Town home and disrupted my son's GCSEs, that was the right thing to do, then I think you should put that to me.
OK. Well, you're saying that you shouldn't have stayed in the home because
God, he's so thin-skinned, isn't he? And that was very lawyery. You should put that to me. You should put that... They're not in court, for God's sake, Keith. And yeah, that was, you know, not too searching a question. And she definitely got a knee-jerk reaction from Keith there.
To protect your boy.
I wanted him to be able to do his GCSEs, and any parent would have made the same decision. I don't wake up every morning thinking about that. I wake up every morning thinking I've got a mandate to change the country. I've got a mandate to improve living standards. I've got a mandate to improve the health service.
I'm trying to talk to you about the optics of it, Prime Minister. If I go back to what you claimed in opposition, 4,500 on holiday accommodation, 16,000 on clothing, nearly £3,000 on glasses, over £35,000 in football, concert tickets, rugby, the races, over £17,000. There might be human reasons for it, but do you understand the optics of it when you are the Prime Minister that said you were going to do politics differently? It looks like you're claiming loads of freebies.
Well,
do you get it? Even if you don't agree with it?
I've given you my explanation.
He is. It doesn't just look like he's claiming loads of freebies. He is claiming loads of freebies, Beth. And he's only going to refer you to his previous answer. Because like any Labour MP, he only goes into an interview with a certain set of pre-programmed responses. That's why the Starmer bot, the Reeves bot, the Streeting bot, whoever you get, they just recycle the same answer over and over again. And all he's got to say is, oh, well, it was declared and it was within the rules. What Rigby is alluding to, Keith, is that the rules allow this amount of corruption, and perhaps they need looking at. And while they might have, after the fact, said that they're going to monitor donations, that they're not going to take any free clothes, that's no valid response to the things that you've already taken that she just listed. And you're going to keep going to sports events and things like this. So not every family gets an expensive property to allow the sons or daughters to study in, Keith. And it looks very bad. Because it is very bad. And that's what she was getting at. And since this interview took place on the subject of education, it's now been disclosed that Starmer's going to be increasing university tuition fees by £10,500. So where's all of your empathy for people who are studying there, Keith?
And I can't improve on that. If people think that my decision to try and protect my son's GCSEs was the wrong one, they're free to do so.
There's lots of other things in that, but it's not about your son.
If people feel that I should insist on sitting in the stands at Arsenal, notwithstanding the cost to other people, that's their important.
Yeah, you should. You should. And security doesn't even come into it, okay? Corbyn gets in the stands at Arsenal games. We've seen that before. If you want to hear his extended opinion on Arsenal and football matches, I believe Politics Joe did an interview with him recently. Do check that out at some point. I've not got any clips of it lined up or anything, but my point is, he's got a season ticket that he doesn't use anyway because he gets these freebies in the executive box that cost thousands and thousands of pounds a time. And these responses he's given are just pathetic, and they show how detached he is from the public, again, like the Tories were, like Sunak, and all who went before him in the 14 years of Tories tenure in number 10. It's the same thing again. He doesn't like crowds, he doesn't like meeting members of the public. never goes well for him, and it's pretty obvious to see why.
The tickets, there's other things in that.
Well, on the clothes, I mean, look, in the general election campaign, we're busy, and lots of people want to help, and in this particular instance said, well, I can help with sorting out some clothes. In opposition, that's one thing. You know, what I would say now is I won't be doing donations for clothes again. There won't be any declarations like that. But look, I think that's a matter of judgment for individuals. And Beth, I might just gently say, Sky invite us to quite a lot of hospitality events. Your summer party is a great party costing thousands of pounds, and you invite me every year. Presumably you want politicians to continue to come, and you know, part of that is how politics, and that's why the declarations are really important.
What I'm trying to get to, which I think I can see, but perhaps you can't, is that for some people out there, it looks like you were going to do politics differently, and now there's...
That was very... Oh, well, you're pointing across the room. Look at you, look at them. Other people who are doing the same thing, or he thinks is doing the same thing, to try and deflect away from his own responsibility where this is concerned. Rubbish.
Seeing that you're claiming for lots of freebies, and it feels less of a clean break, and to some, a sort of continuity Johnson of getting rich friends to pay for stuff.
Well, I've given you the explanation.
But do you just not accept that? Am I just...
I understand why you're
on
asking
a different
questions.
Page?
I understand why you're asking questions.
She's asking questions because this is an interview, Keith. You sit there, they put questions to you, and you answer, or in your case, you respond, and recycle previous responses. That's a good point, Mithril. You're right there. Starmer does seem most like Theresa May with Sunak's psychopathy. Yeah, terrifying blend of personalities there. But again, just more of the same. He can't believe he's being asked questions in an interview. How dare they?
Of course you're right to ask questions, and because you've asked questions, I've given my explanation about why it is that I don't go in the stands at football now, why it is that I wanted to protect my son in his GCSEs, why it is that, you know, my judgment call has been that when you've invited me to the Sky party costing thousands of pounds every year, I've accepted that invitation and come along.
And you would see that as a work event? Would you see a Taylor Swift concert as a work event, for example?
I think it's a judgment call for each
So you don't
MP.
want to change the rules?
I think it's a judgment call for each Member of Parliament.
So you're not going to change the rules, just to be clear? You don't think the rules need reviewing in light of some of the backlash?
Well, on the question
of the public think you should not accept these tickets?
It's a judgment.
Most of the... With the Taylor Swift tickets thing, they all said that they were put under unbelievable pressure from the kids to take them, and that's why they had to take the bribes. Wow.
Judgment call. In relation to clothing, then I have made the decision that I won't accept donations for clothing. That was something that was done in opposition. We're now in government.
But that's only because you got found out. And there's been further revelations of other gratuities that you've accepted. Had that not happened, you would have continued to take and take and take. You've just at least become aware, or at least slightly aware, at some of the optics of this and how it looks to people. And I'll go into Rosie Duffield's resignation in a little bit, but if even the likes of Rosie Duffield say that this is beyond the pale, then maybe you need to wake up a bit. Okay, yeah. The walking bottle of night nurse, Pat McFadden, was on LBC as well.
All our donations are subject to due diligence if they comply with the rules.
Apologies, you definitely shouldn't listen to Pat McFadden. I should point out, if you are currently operating heavy machinery, or if you are driving a car or vehicle of any description, the risk of falling asleep is somewhat pronounced, I should say. But we'll see just how it's only a short clip. Hopefully, we'll manage to get through it. Maybe I should have put some sugar in this tea. I don't know. We'll find out.
About British registered voters and so on.
Cayman Islands registered hedge fund with shares worth hundreds of millions of pounds in fossil fuels, private health firms, arms manufacturers and asset managers. You're comfortable with that?
Quickly, this is the £4 million donation that Labour have received from. It's the largest single donation ever from a company that have their hands in some pretty dodgy business.
All our donations are properly checked, and if they comply with the rules, then yes, anything that doesn't comply with the rules or pass our due diligence wouldn't be accepted.
But you have no problem with accepting money from a Cayman Islands registered hedge fund? You think that looks good?
Well, look, I can only we can have the.
There's only so many different ways that Pat can say, well, we don't really care. We don't, as long as we can get away with it within the rules, we don't really care how it looks to the public. We don't really care how it looks to anyone who was naive enough to vote for us and believed all of the crap that we said about bringing change. And Starmer standing on stage and declaring that change has begun the day after he won the election. But I think, looking back, all he was referring to there was his clothes. Now that you think about it, that was the only change that began. Although it had begun some time before then.
Exchange a few times more if you want. All our donations are in line with British electoral law. They're properly checked.
But you keep saying this about all of these issues, about the tickets, about everything. You keep saying, oh, it's all within the rules. I mean, I'm sure the Labour Party a fair few times over the past 14 years have made the point about Conservative actions that it's not just enough and good enough to be within the rules. It's about how it looks.
Well, I don't think there's any equivalence between what we've been discussing for the last few minutes and some of the stuff that went on in the last 14 years. I mean,
yada, yada, yada. Try and blame the Tories, etc., etc. So that was Pat McFadden. There, if you want to hear more about my views about the 4 million donation, I brought that up on a Brews at 10 live stream just as that was brought to light about that. If you want to go back and check that out, please do so, as well as check out some of the other content on the channel. Just another friendly reminder, please do hit the thumbs up button on this stream to help the channel reach a wider and broader audience. Thanks for joining me on tonight's Sunday stream. This is My Left Eye. I'm your host, Lefty. So they've not even been in power for 3 months, and things don't look good. I can't see Starmer surviving to the next election. That's for sure. At the going rate, anyway. I've got a couple of polls just to look at here. The first one, this comes from Stats for Lefties, about whether Labour feels different from the Tories. Overall, 66 to 34 say that it feels the same as the Tories. Even 44% of Labour voters think it is, even though they're marginally still the only party who say that it's different. Conservatives 62, Reform 78, Lib Dem 56 and the Greens 71. So that's what's happening. It's also not gone well for Labour in a couple of by-elections that have taken place since the last election as well. They've had an MP who's quit already. That's Rosie Duffield. I'll be looking at that very shortly. Should just say I'm not a fan of Duffield's, but if the likes of her think this is too much, then I think that speaks volumes, like I said. I did have another... What was another poll? Just bear with me. I'm not sure if I queued that one up. Okay, we'll skip that other one for now. Might bring that up on the next stream. Just not sure where I put that. Let's have a look at the chat. Let's see what's happening in the chat. Yeah, Mithril, I remember how we were mocked for calling them red Tories, all of the centrists, the so-called centrists, the moderates, before the election, all of the Starmeroids, all of the Starmer fanboys, fangirls, and so on, thought that as soon as he got elected, he'd make a massive shift to the left. We saw this coming. You just had to look at what he did to Corbyn to know that he was a careerist and nothing else. Where winter fuel payments have been concerned, Rachel Reeves has had a, you know, been wanting to get a evil clause on that for the last 10 years as well. So a lot of us saw this coming way before the fact. Unfortunately, enough people voted Labour to give them a parliamentary majority, and now we're in the situation that we thought. Oh, unreal, unreal. You're right there, Hedy. They're all one big happy family. All those parties. So a good scroll up the chat there. It's great to see the chat lively tonight, people. Thanks a lot for all of your additions. Just a bit conscious of time, so just gonna move. Oh, just gonna move on. That was one thing I wanted to pick up on just quickly as well. Sort of ties in with how unpopular Labour have become so soon. I mean, less than 3 months into taking office. And it also ties in with the climate actions that I was chatting about earlier. So this is from Labour Party conference. I'm not sure if you saw this one, but there was a protest as well as inside, which I've covered on other live streams. The two protesters. But by the way, it turns out that, do you remember the first guy who was grabbed around the neck by what appeared to be a security guard? It transpires that that was actually a Labour councillor who did that, who dragged him across the floor and basically assaulted him. But this took place outside, and this was youth demand. And yeah, if you're not familiar, youth demand are sort of an offshoot of JSO, specifically focusing on the concerns that young people have about climate breakdown, future generations, and also protesting against UK complicity in Israel's occupation of Gaza. So genocide welcome, the spraying on the sign outside. While this really, I mean, look, I'll just put that on again. That is the police that come in towards the end, but you've got you can see the security guard by the stairs there, not particularly doing anything about it. The did make testimony to camera after they were arrested. I'll play that as soon as we've seen this clip, but he doesn't get engaged at all. And then the two officers come over, if they are, or whatever they are.
Labour has blood on its hands. Keir Starmer, we see you. You have no humanity. Two-way arms embargo on Israel. Now, stop selling arms to Israel. Stop buying arms from Israel. You're complicit in genocide. Where is your humanity? Two-way arms embargo now. In the genocide, in the UK's complicity. We don't want this. The people put you in power. Be a leader. Be humane. Free Palestine.
Well said, indeed. And yeah, that petty offering that Lammy made to cut 8-9% of arms sales to Israel was, of course, an insult and won't do anything to stop this regional war from spreading and escalating. So, well done to those two members of Youth in Iran for taking that action at the Labour Party conference. And speaking of conference, the Tory conference will be commencing today for what it's worth. Might say one or two things about that as we go through the week. Well, yeah, well done to those two. FSM is the dog. I'm not sure if I'm not aware of the name of the councillor who grabbed that young man who stood up in the conference at the moment. If anyone does, let us know in the chat. But it was... I'm sure I have read his name. You'll have to forgive me. It's escaped my mind. I almost remembered which council he sits in as well, but no, it's gone. I'd have to check a couple of sources on that one before I could confirm who that was. Alright, just one or two other things to get through in the stream. Please do stick with me on my left eye. After tonight's live stream as well, should be redirecting or raiding into another channel as well, so stay put everybody. And don't forget to hit the like button. To appease the algorithm gods as well as Odin, All-Father. Alright, next up I've got the latest from Broken News with Larry and Paul. Let's check out what they've got. Give them a follow as well.
Welcome to Broken News. The UK can breathe a sigh of relief after it was announced there would be no return to austerity. Some had expressed fears that the new Labour government was becoming almost indistinguishable from the Conservative-led government of 2010. Our reporter has more.
Yes, thank you. As you can see behind me, there are wild celebrations on the streets of Britain after the new Chancellor confirmed that austerity is a thing of the past. At the Labour Party conference here on the banks of the Mersey, Rachel Reeves said, "We must deal with a Tory legacy of failure, and that means tough decisions." which thankfully is a far cry from George Osborne at the 2010 Tory party conference in Birmingham, when he said, "We must deal with a Labour legacy of failure, and that means tough decisions." Of course, when Mr Osborne laid out austerity measures, he said that difficult choices were needed to fix the foundations for a more prosperous future. Rachel Reeves has taken a starkly different approach by saying that difficult choices would be needed to fix the foundations to revive our prosperous future. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has announced plans to tackle the welfare budget, insisting that people claiming long-term sickness benefits should be expected to look for work. He added that some decisions may be painful, but that rebuilding the economy must be fair. It represents a dramatic shift away from the Conservatives' announcement of 2012, when David Cameron said that people claiming long-term sickness benefits should be expected to look for work, and George Osborne added, "Yes, it's tough, but it's also fair." Of course, Labour has pointed out that they've only just come to power and are dealing with a massive black hole in public finances because of the Tories' reckless spending. Whereas in 2010, the Conservatives said they'd only just come to power and were dealing with a black hole in public finances because of Labour's reckless spending. Well, of course, today there's a great deal to be positive about. You could say that the good times are back, with many looking forward to Labour's exciting plan to cut winter fuel payments, keep a two-child benefit cap and force government departments to save over £5 billion. In a statement laying out Labour's economic plan, Keir Starmer said, "While there are big international issues to deal with, like the return of the sausages from Gaza, we must also bake changes at home, reduce the welfare stake and get people back to pork," which looks funny written down, but doesn't work as an audible pun. Back to you.
What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
Larry and Paul there with Broken News, really good episode. That apologies to any viewers from Birmingham or Liverpool for the quality of those impressions of regional accents. Alright, that brings us towards the end of the stream. Sorry, I feel like I've been pretty scatty tonight. Like I said, I've been in a bit of a strange mood with World War III looming over us, as well as other things as discussed. But it's been wonderful to be with you tonight. Always great to get together and share opinions. Solidarity this Socialist Sunday. Thanks for being with me on the stream. Don't go anywhere. Like I said, I'm just queuing up a redirect. Some more quality content to come from other YouTubers. Let's see who's on. I think a couple of people said Helena was on. Yeah, there we go. Fantastic. So I'll take you over to Helena at No Justice. Awesome content there, so don't go anywhere. Shout out to Helena as well for recent shout outs and raids, of course. So I might be joining you there myself very shortly. That's all queued up and set to go. There won't be a Brews at 10 tomorrow. I have an engagement to get to. However, do hit the notification bell to keep up to date with the latest content on the channel. Should be back with you midweek, either Tuesday or Wednesday. Of course, PMQs I think is going to be returning this coming week, so be doing commentary and analysis on that. hopefully I'll be able to bring you a booze at 10 on Tuesday as well. And one final reminder before I go, please do share around your social media, hit the thumbs up button. Another massive shout out to all the members on the channel as well. Sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. Sausages! Excuse me. Thanks again to all the members. You can join that list of people for just 99p. If you're watching back on a replay, please do consider joining the channel or hitting super thanks as well if you've not been able to join us live. But guys, it's been wonderful to see you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. That will be all from me. Take care, everybody. My Left, I'll be seeing you soon.